So I have some exciting things to share with this group, which I'm excited about. I know we talked about basically a place for all of us to be able to chat and like share ideas and outside of just a mastermind time. So I did create a Discord channel that I'm going to invite all of you to. So give me a second here. I'm just going to put the link in here. So Discord, if you're not familiar with it, it's kind of um like a chat. It's like Slack or Microsoft Teams if you've had experience with that before. So this is going to be a place. I have a couple different channels set up in there. And right now we can obviously add other things to it too, which is exciting. But this will be a place that will continue to like carry on a conversation about anything operations related. If like you've got a question or you're looking for a resource or I mean really the options are endless, but I feel like there is a big need for this in terms of outside of just Facebook groups or just masterminds like this. So if you have any issues getting into it, let me know. They do have an app, so you can download the app on your phone too, so you can use it from your phone as well. And you can adjust notifications and stuff like that because I'm sure you'll probably get quite a few notifications like anytime somebody posts in there and stuff, which might be a little too much. So I would just recommend going in and making some adjustments there. So hey, Amy, I'm not sure if you can see the chat after you've joined, so I'm just going to put it in here again around a Discord channel that we put together that is just for operations. So
that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
In the app, you can also silence the notifications for Discord too.
Yep.
And you can silence it per individual too, or as far as like each individual like section
Like
underneath there.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. That'll be helpful.
Yeah. So, and we can really, I mean, I want this to be like our own kind of thing. So if there's other people that you know operationally that would benefit from being connected in here, like you can send them a link to join. Or if it doesn't let you, I'm not sure with all of like the rules on Discord, I can send you this exact same link to somebody else to get them plugged in here. It can be agents. It doesn't have to just be operations. I mean, if an agent is running their own business, they are the operation. So we want this to be a place again that helps people grow, etc. Right now, we have 3 different channels. So the idea behind it is to keep the conversation around like that specific channel, if that makes sense. So like if we're talking about anything related to sellers, we'd put it in the seller system. If we're talking about something around anything with buyers, buyer checklists, buyer presentations, anything under that channel. And then Kathleen recommended putting Jordan between and put a command help function in there too. So
yeah, so I'll be in there as well if you guys ever have any just kind of like super quick command questions. Of course, if you need like time with me or Lindsay to like sit down and actually like work on a project or, you know, go into more detail over things with command, definitely just hit us up individually. But I think it's just a nice resource because I know like a couple of you just email me one-off questions every now and then. So it'd be nice to have it somewhere where everybody can see the answer and we can just learn from each other. So.
Yep, definitely. I could see this also growing too. So our team, Lifetime Realty Group, we use Discord to communicate, and we have too many. Like there's some we haven't used in quite a while, but we have probably maybe 25 different channels that we communicate on. So as we grow and as we use this, we might add some other ones, and that's totally fine. So, but feel free to plug into this outside of this mastermind time. But I'm excited to have this. I think it'll be great for us to have a tool more like on demand, if you will. So than just waiting for a mastermind or Facebook or something like that. So cool. next, what else did I put up here? I had like a link for some resources here. I think that was it so far. So, but I'll introduce myself too, because I know it looks like there's some new faces on here too. So my name is Katie. I'm the director of operations for Lifetime Realty Group. So we're out of the New Berlin office. And I've been with the team for like almost like 4.5 years or so, which is crazy to think about. When we mastermind today, because there are some new faces, introduce yourself and let people know either like the team that you're on, the team that you represent, maybe the location that you're in. Because again, one of the other purposes behind this is to create community and connection across all the market centers too operationally. So I know that's not a lot of people in operations don't love that, which I understand, but it's good to create connections because people on this call could help you tremendously with your business, whether it's a checklist or sharing a document, whatever. So it's good for us to be able to get to know each other and be able to help. So starting things off with talking about really kind of two different topics. So a recap for you, I'm a part of the KW operations community. And so I'm an ambassador for their community, which is one of the, not one of the reasons that I'm hosting this mastermind, but it's a little bit part of it. It's to help build connection inside the market center, but it's also to help with potentially adding people to KW if they have an operations person, if they're outside of KW and they're thinking about maybe coming to KW, helping them to get plugged into different resources and things like that. So every month we do different masterminds. And the topic yesterday in our mastermind was around the GPS and how we're doing since we're really heading into the end of Q1 and heading into Q2, really kind of taking a pulse on like, how are things going? Are we on track with our plan? Did we even have a plan to begin with? And it's okay if you didn't. What is our plan for Q2? And just sort of like taking an assessment of where we're at. So talking about that and some family reunion takeaways. I know there's a few people on the call here today that had the opportunity to attend family reunion. So I wanted to take this time to also share some takeaways, some things you're taking action on already. And then we'll dive into it being kind of an open format of bringing things that you're struggling with or want help with, or just kind of like an open format. So I'm sorry, can you guys hear my dog in the background or no? Oh, good. Okay. She's making some really sad faces. Oh, you can't see her. She's really sad. I'm sorry. Okay. So family reunion takeaways. So who was able to go to family reunion? Okay, cool. Do you want to share some of the takeaways that you had from it overall?
So my name is Robbie. I am the transaction coordinator for Level Up in New Berlin. So I did the introduction part right.
Yep, great job.
So I mean, the best panel I went to was the one that Katie was on, of course. Like, let's give this woman her flowers first and foremost. So,
That's very sweet of you. Thank you.
but one, it was a little hectic it being in a casino because those things are designed to get you lost. So getting from panel to panel was a little difficult the first couple days. And then of course, by the time you figure everything out, it's your last panel of the last day, and you're like, oh, I know where I'm going now. But
Right.
I did have a lot of I did go to a lot of good ops panels. Just there was a bulletproofing the transaction one that was really good and talking about like getting in front of the problems we see on transaction basis. That was not a good sentence, but whatever. I'm getting over a cold. And so there was a lot of good stuff there. And then the other one I really liked was just a 15-minute one, but it was a 7-star service one. And that I had a lot of good stuff that is rattling around in this brain somewhere. And thank goodness I took really good notes because I went on vacation immediately after family reunion. So
That's awesome. What would you say was your biggest kind of like aha from the bulletproofing the transaction session?
Well, not necessarily in that one, they talked about like um basically having the agent introduce us. Like obviously when they do their presentations, they talk about having an ops team and whatever. But then like it's really still hard to get them to communicate with us. So they talked about like not only the agent writing them a handwritten note thanking them for, working with them, but also having us write a handwritten note. And so that really stuck with me as like a way to try to get more to the forefront when it comes to the transaction with the customer, rather than like, you know, trying to have them send the stuff to the agent and then the agent send the stuff to me and like we're running in a circle. So
Mhm.
that was the one real big aha I took away from that.
I love that. I love that personal touch too. I think that's huge. Nice. What about you, Kathy?
Yeah,
Oh, you're on mute again. It like went off and then it went back on.
Yeah, that was like I'm trying to think, the fourth or fifth family reunion and or mega camp that, I've been to. And it's always just, a lot of frenzy, lots of information, can be super overwhelming. But, one of the things I think that you go to learn, obviously, from people and from the best of the best practices, but also I don't think what can be understated is like the connections and the introductions that you make there. So just some of them happen by chance, standing in line, having a common, obstacle, like trying to find your room, where is it happening, or standing in line at Starbucks because you didn't bring a coffee maker with you, whatever. I mean, all those things that, I mean, but it's just like in life, right? Like when you can put a name with a face with people, sometimes you just end up like telling stories, telling your story, and then there's like a connection. Like I'm sorry, I didn't say I failed, because I'm Kathy with Team Trimble Real Estate in Lake Country. And I'm a licensed agent, but I'm a director of operations there, but I live in Ohio and I'm a licensed agent in Ohio. So I kind of come from a couple of different vantage points. But anyway, I just think that sometimes having conversations with people about your story or where you're from, and then next thing you know, like, oh, where do you live? And then you find out, oh, well, my sister was just thinking about moving there or to that area. And it's just, I mean, I had that happen like 2 or 3 different times. That just doesn't happen. Like when you're not face to face with people and, being open-minded and not just on your phone, really looking out into the world and trying to make connections. So that's good. But one of the other things, I went to a lot of things. One of the things that for me was a huge takeaway was, well, number one, I love Mel Robbins. I mean, as soon as she was announced, I bought my ticket. I mean, it was like immediate because I love her weekly. And I just thought it was super interesting. Like Mel Robbins, Tony Robbins, and then really actually Gary Keller and Phil Jones. So all of those, highly successful people in their different ways and the things that they do, talk a lot about like inaction or fear. We talk a lot about, that fear is always bigger when it lives inside of you than it is in the actual, whatever it is that you are supposed to be doing. So they all talked about, what you focus on expands, and that fear is so big and it can be debilitating, but there's, these strategies about like making a move and, progress over perfection, not worrying about, that it's not going to be perfect as much as just get out of your head. And obviously Mel Robbins uses her 5-second rule of the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then just pick up the phone and make the call, stop thinking about it. So, she talked a lot about that. Obviously, Tony Robbins talked a lot about like moving, like physically moving your body. And then, Gary was like, real estate is a contact sport. For those of you who sit behind your computer and think that, that your business is gonna be sustained that way, it's more than likely not. Not that it can't grow your business, but just that it's what's sustainable. I mean, people know, like, and trust you and then choose to work with you. And then Phil Jones talked a lot about how indecision, like it rots your mind and your heart and your body. Like it sits there like, and it just eats away your energy and your, you know, decision making. But so it's just like, do the thing, just do it, you know? So,
Mhm. Yeah,
so
no, that's so good.
yeah. And then I
Yeah.
wasn't, yours was very good too. I agree.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. The really, really, I call that the really, reallys. Like those sessions are, you know, you always have the big grandiose sessions that are these kind of like overarching umbrella themes and, you know, this is how you should do it, but not really like the tasks related to how
Totally.
to do the thing. And I think the how to do it sometimes stops people from doing anything. So I really enjoy that when you really get granular and start breaking it down. So, because then it's actionable. So,
Totally. Yeah. I think that's something that when I started attending, when I started at KW and then started attending these conferences, I just like there was such a big gap between that. It just felt like a lot of people talking, which is good. And it's good to hear like what's possible and what people are doing, because there is a lot of power in knowing that it's doable. But there, to your point, there's like this huge open area of like, well, how did you do that though? Like, what did you do? What was your first step? What was, you know, step number 5? And not that you need to make it look identical to that, but like a starting point. And so I really, for my panel, I was very focused on that because I'm like earlier at the CEO summit. So they do at Family Reunion, I think it's the before like the event actually starts, they do a CEO summit. And they have I think there were like 4 or 5 speakers that spoke. And Rory Vaden, I think is how you say his name. He was honest, besides Mel Robbins, he was my favorite that I listened to that was like a presenter. Go check him out on social media. He runs a business on content creation and helping people like really niche down to really focus on what their superpower is. And something that he said, so Scott and I walked in like a little bit late. And right as he started talking, he was like, you are best positioned to serve the person that you once were. And I've heard this phrase before, and I've thought about it quite a bit. And it really just like hit home for me thinking about my panel and prepping for it. I'm like, my purpose is to serve the person that I was when I was sitting in the audience wanting to know the how. I need to speak to that person. So like that was my focus going into it. And the response showed me that that is what people want. Like after the fact, I had some messages on social media and even just after the panel, and people were like, that would be great if you could share this, or if you could share this. And it was refreshing to see that like people want to know that. Like people want to know the how. So just something to keep in mind too. Like that was really one of the takeaways I was going to share here was, and this is more probably even you could assign it to be more personal or in business, but like your experience in your life up until this point, you can help serve someone who was in a position that you were in like 2 years ago, whether that's work related, if it's something with your family, whatever. And he really talked about like that's how you can serve people at the highest level. So if we were talking about it real estate wise, if you were a first time homeowner, first time home buyer, what kind of questions did you have as a first time home buyer? And so his recommendation was to write down as many questions as you can think of that your ideal person or your ideal client has about whatever that is. So if that's buying a home, if that's selling a home, if it's an investment property, building wealth, like whatever that is that your niche and your team is really great at, writing down all of the questions that they could possibly have and then address them on social media and use that as content, use that in buyer consultations, listing consultations, like you're stepping inside of their shoes to answer the questions that you know that they have that they won't ask you. So you're like addressing them on the front end. So But I love the idea of writing down all these questions and addressing them, because a lot of times we hear on teams, oh, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say on social media. I don't know what to post. I don't know, and then people kind of end up just like ripping off and duplicating what they saw somebody else do, but there's no like flow to it, and this could be a really great, easy way. And I say easy because I do think that this method is easy to take action on, of just making a list of all of the questions that a new first-time home buyer would have. All of them. You don't need to address all of them. You don't have to have the answer for every single one of them. Maybe your lender partner could answer one of them and your inspector can answer another one, but really stepping into the shoes of your ideal person and making that list. I thought that was such a good, I thought it was such a good idea. The other panel that I took quite a few things away that are more like operational focus was a panel with a woman named Monica Keltz. If you guys are not familiar with her, she is with the Holt Group. So they are out of Missouri and they run a big team. They run a big business. I'm trying to think how long I've known her. She's become a good friend of mine. And I mean, I just feel like she's a wealth of knowledge. So even following her on social media, she shares a lot of great stuff real estate wise. So a couple of things that were said there was, and I wanted to bring this to this group because I feel like this is a group of people that wear a lot of hats. Like you don't just wear one hat as a TC or one hat as a director of operations. So she said, you need to keep updating and adding to your own job description. So like just as teams evolve and as they like just as your team grows or downsizes, changes, etc., like the duties that you're doing potentially are changing from when you first started with your organization. So their recommendation was to just keep basically like a Google Doc, a running Google Doc of all the things that you're doing in addition to what's on your job description. And what I loved about that was that when it comes time to talk about, let's say like an increase in pay, or the team is, adjusting and new roles are opening up and you're interested in a role like that, like you have a list of all of the things that you've already been doing for your organization. And I think there's so much power in that because you're doing it in real time versus like going back and thinking about all the things that you're doing. So that I thought that was very helpful. The other thing that I liked was this question. So talking about getting clarity on roles. And this is something that our team has, like a journey, I would say that's a good way of saying it, a journey of getting clarity on roles, because we had a lot of transitions last year for our team. And so one of the questions that Monica asked was, what skill gap exists? So like, is there a skills gap with somebody that's in a role on your team right now? Or maybe it might even be you. Like, is there a gap in a skill that you have that you need to develop? And then what actions do we need to take to further develop that skill? So let's say it's command. Like the skill gap is command, not confident with command, but we know that, getting more experience and using it and like getting in and using it is going to help your business. What kind of action steps can you put together to develop your skills in command, etc.? The other thing she said is it a system problem or is it a people problem? So if you're looking at something that isn't working, like, is it the system or is it the person? And just staying very objective to like what the root of the problem is so that you can address what the solution could potentially be. And then the last thing that I thought was really helpful, and I'm still trying to figure out how we can make this work on our team, was something that they do at client events. And I don't know who mentioned this out of the 4 that were on this panel, but they have a lot of agents on their team. And so when they do a client event, they might have a happy hour and they might have 300 people there. And a lot of times the agents don't always recognize like their people, let's say, because maybe they only saw them once, or maybe it was during 2020 where they never saw them potentially, or like people's looks change or whatever. So their recommendation was for a client event, doing name tags for all of your guests, but color coding them by the agent. So like for our team, it would be anybody that registers to attend our happy hour in April, let's say, I would give them a red name tag so Scott would know that those people are his lifetime clients. And then if somebody had, if they were Jeremy's lifetime clients, like that could be in blue or something like that. There's a lot of overlap on our team, so I think it could get a little interesting, but depending on the structure of your team, that might be helpful to like get your agents to go talk to their people potentially. So I'm trying to think. I mean, I have
I
a lot
love
of
that.
takeaways.
Can I just chime in and say how much I love that color coding name tag system? That is so freaking smart. And like, as somebody
Yeah.
who, I mean, I don't know if any of my other admins out there, but like socially awkward, like if I knew that somebody who came in was Mark Dorlax and I'm on your team, and I can be like, oh, you know what? Mark's going to be so excited to see you. And then I would just walk
Yep.
them over to Mark, and that client would never know that we had no idea who they were.
Totally.
Right?
Totally. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I love that idea too. I have a really quick story that would have helped me if we had color coding name tags. So a forever client came to, I think it was Pi Day or something. We've done several transactions with him, but I'm an admin. I've never actually seen his face or didn't remember that I had met him. So I was like, oh my gosh, so great to finally meet you. And he's like, he's signing in and he's like, we've already met. And he just keeps signing. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I was really confident that we had not met. So that's a great idea. But when you said that, Katie, I just flashed in my head. I saw Jeremy and Scott walking around with all different colored tags all over them.
Totally. Or it would be like, well, Jen helped them buy. So they'd have like a multicolored name tag or something. But I'm sure there's like, there'd be a way to be able to do it. But, and one of the things, the way that I interpret it, then they didn't say this, but I'm thinking about it on our end. There's quite a few people that Scott and Jeremy don't know at this point because they're not the ones working. Well, Jeremy still is, but Scott's not actually working with clients anymore. So most of the time at a lot of these events, he doesn't know any of them. So it also, I feel like, gives him a little bit of a prompt to know, like, oh, this person has worked with Mark, let's say, or has worked with Jen. And he can almost kind of use that in a way to like get into a conversation. Like, oh, yeah, or you've had the opportunity to work with Jen in the past. That's great. Or how did it go? Or whatever. How do you know Jen? Or, I mean, I'm sure there's some kind of like awkward phrase you could kick that off with, but I just thought it might give people a little bit of help when going in to have some of those conversations. So yeah, I love that idea though.
And I was going to just add up to that. I mean, I love that idea. And even just in general, I think people, well, I'm getting older. And so I'm, not as good at remembering names. I know the name and then I can't retrieve it from the back of my head type thing. Even like within the market center. So I go back and forth between Ohio and Wisconsin on the regular. And so every time I come back, there's like new people. So even like within the market center, even agent to agent, sometimes I think if people wore their name tags when they're in the market center, it makes the new agents feel comfortable because like agents that maybe like, oh, hey, hi, Katie, it's good to, and then if you've seen them once and then you forget, and then the next time you see them, it's not as awkward because you're like, dang it, I can't remember their name. People just like to be called by their name, and there's just something about when you say someone's name versus just hi, which means I can't remember your name, it just feels better. So I just think it's a standard of practice too. It's something actually our market center here in Cincinnati does, which I love. I mean, when the agents, they all just wear their little name tag, and it just, I don't know, there's just something about it that makes, like I said, the new people feel comfortable, and then the people that have been around for a while feel like they can, if they don't remember the name, it's right there.
Yep.
It makes connection so much easier.
Yep. Totally.
Anyway.
Totally agree with you. Yeah. I would say the last thing about, since I know we're like way over on what I had allotted for time, which is totally fine. It's a good conversation. Was if you are on the fence as an operations person about attending some of these, I really would recommend putting something together to the rainmaker or the owners of your team, why you should attend family reunion or something like this in the future. And maybe putting together some sort of like document of like what exactly you are going to do with the information that you come back with. And then when you do come back, like providing a summary of, here are the 5 things that, you know, the 5 main takeaways that I had. Here's the one thing that I'm going to implement, and here's the impact that it's going to have on our organization. And here's how much money it could potentially save us, earn us, like whatever, to essentially cover the cost of you attending an event like this. There are more and more operation type breakouts and things for us to be able to go to. And it's not all just specifically geared to agents. So, what a distraction behind me. But I just feel like there's so much power in having operations people attend things like this, because ultimately a lot of times rainmakers are the ones that I have seen attend things like this, but they're not the integrators. They're not the implementers. So they go to these things, they come back, they like word vomit all over you with ideas of 1,000 things they want to do. But you're like, what are you talking about? You don't have the context or the how or the purpose or the why. And then like nothing really gets done. And then it's just like they spent money to go learn a bunch of things and maybe network and whatever and have a good time. But like, I really believe it's more impactful when the integrator is also there to be able to hear the same thing. They hear it differently and are probably more likely to actually implement whatever it is that you're looking to do. So just something to think about. Like looking back on my notes, I know you probably can't see this, but Scott and I on the airplane, here, let me change this here. On the airplane back, like we listed out all of the things that we were going to start doing. So like, and we've done them. So like we've taken action on them. So like you've got pretty much a lot of like one-on-one time with the person that may be running your team or whatever that looks like. It just could be a really good way to build out a plan of what you learned, what you're going to take action on, and then following up maybe a few weeks later to say like, here's where we're at with that thing that we put together or that we did. But if you would ever need help putting together a plan for that or laying out like the cost and the amount of money that it could potentially save or earn your team to cover the cost of it or whatever, like let me know. But I just want to encourage you to push to attend stuff like that. So, because it could be too that a lot of rainmakers aren't thinking about it. They're not leaving you out on purpose. They're not like not telling you about it or not telling you to not go. They're just moving a mile a minute. And maybe you presenting something of like, this is why I'd want to go. These are the things that I'm looking to learn. This is the purpose of me going. I'm going to walk away with 2 or 3 things, that kind of thing. So I'll get off my soapbox, but I'm just big about it. And I think there's a lot of power in having the operator, the integrator there to also learn. So.
Katie?
Yes.
Did you say that you have something that you've written out with the breakdown on how like the ROI of that, or that could be discussed? Or I'm sorry.
I don't have anything. I don't have anything actually written out myself. I'm thankful, like when I started with Scott, like he brought me with to all of that stuff. And now I would say it's pretty much like a standard that at least him and I are attending most of the KW things together for the most part. But I'd be happy to do that with somebody to lay it out. Like, here's what the cost is going to be, the cost of the ticket, the cost of the flight, the hotel or the stay or whatever. And then laying out a plan of like, here are the things that you're going to do. Like, you're going to go to these sessions. You're going to come away with 2 takeaways. 1 week after, you're going to send an email of the things that you're going to implement, and like kind of putting together a playbook basically is what I envision it looking like to propose the benefit of why you should attend something like that.
That's great.
Yeah. Yep. And maybe you even, I mean, this is a little bit of an off, like a sidebar of that, but I know a lot of teams have some sort of education credit built into their team agreement. Maybe you could use some money that you have from an education like bucket to pay for some of like an event like this potentially. Just something to think about. So, but one of the things that at KW Talent, so KW Talent is another community that our team is very involved in, and they've been very instrumental in helping us with a lot of the things that we're currently working on. That was most of our takeaways for our team, is around standards, team agreements, splits, like training, hiring, like that was really our focus. When we spent a lot of time inside of like just this KW talent community, they are really, really, really big. Liz Landry is the one that leads it. She pushes that the operators are always there. So like an event that they do, it's called Built to Last. It's a requirement that the operator, so I say operator because it could really be any operations role. It doesn't have to be a director of operations, an executive assistant, like whoever the integrator is on a team. If you attend any of their classes, it has to be the integrator and the rainmaker. Like they can't just be the rainmaker. And I loved hearing her say that, because she's like, you guys don't implement. You guys are the big thinkers. You're the visionary. You're not the like in the weeds kind of person. So you're going to go back and you're not going to relay this information the best as if they were here hearing it to then go back and do it together. So it's always cool to hear her talk about that. So, any questions on that stuff about family reunion though? No? Okay, cool. So we'll get in really, really quick talking about GPS, and then we can open it up for the remainder of the time if there's things that anybody wants to brainstorm on or they want feedback on. I know a lot of you do the 12-week year, or you put together a GPS, so like a big overarching plan that you have for your organization for the year, whether it's usually it's how many units you want to sell. It could be around volume, it could be around GCI. How are we feeling as we're heading into the end of Q1 and about to start Q2? How are we feeling about where we're at to the goals and the priorities that we had set out initially?
Hi, Jessica Bergdorf, Simplified Realty Group out of Milwaukee, out of the New Berlin office. So overall, we're okay. Our rainmaker has really decided that he's really diving deep, and the thing that has done a lot is that he's had some higher price points. So that's at least the good part as far as meeting our volume goal. But I do know that there's a couple of our agents that, one is actually just got his first AO for the year today. And then another one, he has gone on so many listing appointments and so many buyer agency and things like that, and as well as taking on showings, and he's gotten crickets. And he's getting a little kind of like, kind of frustrated, a little bit down on himself, but it's a catch-22. Half of the team is doing good, the other half of the team is not doing good. So it's just kind of trying to find that balance and keep everybody motivated.
How's everybody else feeling?
I can go next. Everyone can hear me. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So for our 12-week year, in our first quarter, we were really focused on like reducing errors and omissions, and increasing accuracy and efficiency. And so I think we did a really great job in this first quarter. Some of our strategies were like, we started creating a checklist for like really breaking down phases. So if it was the let's say something as simple as earnest money, you receive an earnest money receipt, in the email, and there's, there could be 10 steps that go along with receiving that refund or the receipt. And so we started creating these checklists for those individual little breakdowns in those different phases of the transaction. So that's really helped a lot. And then just really, staying on top of with my digital DMO has also helped reduce a lot of errors and omissions, and has helped to increase efficiency as well, because it's sort of broke down to you know, sometimes I'm working on, you know, just listings or sometimes just buyers rather than sort of just per task, which kind of then has you working all over the place.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. That's really good to hear. I mean, I feel like something that I hear in that too is just, it's almost like a constant lens of how do we improve this, or what could we be doing differently, or what could we do different next time to avoid this, or which I'm just putting some questions in the chat here too. These are some of the questions that we talked about yesterday in our mastermind. Like for a GPS review, how did we do? What were the goals? What do we need to do this week or month to either catch up, stay on track? You know, basically just a way to be able to have a different lens of taking a look at where we're at right now to the goals that we set at the beginning of the year. Or if you're operating on the 12-week year, like really taking a look, where did we do really well? Where did we fall a little bit short? What do we need to do in this next time period to make up for the part that was short and to hit our goal for the quarter? So, or what adjustments do we need to make? So nice. Do you have like the people on this call, does anybody have a big part in laying out the team goals for the year? Are you a part of that conversation? Not so much. Okay. Okay.
Dawn is a high C, so she's got those numbers down to the dollar, as
Yeah.
Scott likes to point out on every single mastermind I do with him.
We have mid-year and end of year retreats, and that's what we talk about. Mid-year is how we're doing, and then end of the year is wrapping up end of the year and then talking about our goals for the next year.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, and that also just helps in terms of giving a pulse on like this conversation, because this conversation could sound a lot different depending on how involved you are in the development of the team goals, or like how involved you are in tracking all the different team goals that your organization has. But so, because it kind of sounds like that doesn't really fit for this group, to take these questions and apply them to yourself, then if you do have the 12-week year, you have your own GPS, your own plan for the year, your goals, your priorities, and your strategies. Taking a look at where you're at to what you wanted to accomplish, you can ask these exact same questions. So the reason that I put the question in here around what's the biggest struggle you have when it comes to running the plays of your GPS? So what Nicole meant by that is, what's the biggest thing that gets in the way from you doing what you should be doing to follow the plan that you had set probably in like October, November of last year? And a lot of the things that were coming up were like people's calendars. Like they weren't following their calendar. They weren't time blocking appropriately. A big one was that their rainmaker was kind of throwing them all over the place, throwing lots of different ideas at them. And so it was like, okay, well, I thought we had all these things that we had planned to do, but now you're saying we want to do these things. Like, is it so the focus shifts to these new things that weren't on the plan? So then when you assess the plan, you're like, well, we haven't done anything here, but you've been doing a lot of things over here that weren't on the plan. So a lot of the conversation was around kind of navigating conversations like that. Do you guys feel like that is more where you're at in the roles that you're in, that you're kind of dealing with it from that angle versus the planning part?
I just put it in the chat. So I think one of my biggest challenges is being pulled from time blocks and things I have scheduled in my GPS to put out a fire or jump into an urgent situation. That happens several times a week, and depending on that urgent situation, it could take 5 minutes or it could take 3 days. And so we've been talking really about me getting more specific with my time blocks, and that's what I'm struggling with, because I could time block everything, but if there's something that urgent that comes up, all of that is out the window. And it's not like you can always go back and reschedule all of that time block stuff.
Totally. Totally. You're not alone, that was one of the biggest things that we talked about yesterday, was it's like what throws you off of your time block. And then it's really asking like, okay, are these things actually urgent? So like making sure that they are actually urgent, and that they're, a lot of times we tend to feel like they're maybe more urgent than they are. So like really taking a look at it, of almost like keeping like a very neutral stance, and really asking, is this truly urgent, or do I just think it's urgent because somebody urgently messaged me about it, you know? And then if that's the case, then that replaces what you had in your calendar, then saying like, can this be moved? Or, and if it can't, then like, I think that's stuff to bring forward to the person that you report to directly, because either there's too much on somebody's plate, you're understaffed, or have too many priorities. So then it's like getting to the root of like, how do we solve this so that you don't finish the day feeling like you failed, when really you accomplished a lot and did a lot of things. But you know, when you're moving things around in your calendar and whatever, and you look at your to-do lists and 3 things are crossed off and you've got 20 on there, it can not feel great sometimes. Like, what
Yeah.
did I just do? You know,
Yeah.
what did I do today? You know?
Yeah. And then when I have broken down like what exactly happened during that issue, and all of the things I accomplished during that issue that replaced all of those things. But it still doesn't, it still doesn't make you feel accomplished.
Yeah, totally. Good for you for writing that down though. I feel like that's so important, because you could just be in the weeds of it. And like I said, you get to the end of the week and you like look back on your calendar and you're like, what did I actually even do last week? You know, and then it's like, am I not failing? Am I not hitting my goals? Like, I mean, your brain can, you know, go to work to find all the things that are not right. But keeping a log of that, I think, is so important. I mean, one, to also identify if this is a system problem or a people problem, to like be able to fix whatever maybe the root cause of that problem is, if there is one. But then also to go back to say like, this took way longer than anticipated, and you know, this is more important than working on a newsletter or something like that. So that's why this got pushed out or something like that. So great job for writing that down. That's definitely an area I need to get better in, for sure. So Kathleen put, what if you time block some catch-up time? Also, are we time blocking every minute of our day, or are we time blocking our 20% activities? Yeah, that's a really good question. That's what I've started to do. So when I meet with Scott we meet on Tuesday afternoons, I only put blocks of time in for like the 2 or 3 things that are the most important thing that's on my 411 document. So, and then I tend to move those things around because, like you said, fires come up or more urgent things come up, etc. But I do feel more, I will say I do feel more accomplished, because those 3 things, like those are the 3 most important things. So they will get done, even if I'm moving them around a little bit. And then obviously there's more space in there for some other fires or random things that come up, or crazy ideas, that kind of thing. So I do like that though, that it's like a time blocking the 20%, not time blocking your entire day. Because I think a lot of times when we think about time blocking, we think it's like your entire day. So I really appreciate that perspective, Kathleen.
I do too. I think that's a better way to look at it. And maybe when I'm talking with Tony, maybe explain it, that I'm not time blocking every single task that I'm doing, but
Yeah.
I'm time blocking those big rocks.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. I will say, since I've been doing that, it's been very helpful. There's no doubt about it, because it has opened up time. Now my role is different than TC, like that is like a bear of its own in terms of trying to time block for things as a TC. There's no doubt about it. They're very different in terms of urgency and like things that come up, that kind of thing. But I really like that perspective though. So thank you, Kathleen. Well, we're right at 1 o'clock, and I unfortunately have another meeting to jump to too. So I feel bad we didn't get to that like open time to talk. But now we have Discord. so we can talk anytime we want to. So, yes, if there's other people that you want to join, if you can't figure out how to add them in here to send them an invite, just shoot me an email and I can send you like the link. The link that I sent you guys only lasts for like 7 days or something like that. It has an expiration period. So, but feel free to add that or bring more people into this community. I think there's a lot of power that can happen there with all of our ideas. You can share systems in there, links, PDFs, things like that. So if somebody needs something, I would say that's a good like first place to go to. So
If only there was a video of Katie's entire panel from Family Reunion.
oh my God,
Someone bootlegged. I don't know.
it'd be worth millions, I'm sure, if I had to guess. So I'm just kidding. That was seriously so nice of you, Robbie. And then Scott messaged me over the week. I don't know if it was not last weekend, but the weekend before. He's like, I'm listening to your panel. And I was like, what? And I forgot that you had sent him the link to it or whatever, which is funny. So
I would
but
totally
thank you
watch
for
it.
that. I appreciate that and all of your support. I really appreciate it. So thank you.
I would watch that too, Mel. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just dropped the Google Drive link into the Discord. So if you're in the Discord, you can watch it.
I'm in.
Robbie.
An exclusive benefit to being in Discord with everybody.
Yes.
I love it. That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you
Thank
guys.
you.
I really appreciate it. If you need anything else, I definitely let us know, but we'll see everybody in April then.